And we'll be back on Rock 104. Oh, hey, how are you doing? It's Wednesday once again, and that means it's time for another Weird Wednesday here on rock104.ca. Today we're going to tell you the story of a package that didn't quite make it to its destination. It was 1964, and Brian Robson had set out for Australia from Cardiff, Wales. He'd accepted a job working for Australia's Victoria Railways and gotten himself onto the assisted immigration program in order to become a citizen of the land down under eventually. Unfortunately for the 19-year-old, he became severely homesick and was looking for a way to back out of the deal just a couple months in. He was making about £40 a week, which meant that it would take the better part of a year to save up enough to cover the £700 cost to make the trip back to Wales. Fortunately for him, two of his friends that he made while working came up with the idea that would cut the cost of the trip by a considerably large margin. They would simply pack Brian into a crate and ship him home. The cargo flight from Melbourne to London would take about 36 hours. They said it wouldn't be a problem at all. Then his parents would just open the crate when he got home, and Bob's your uncle. He's enjoying a home-cooked meal at home with his parents. To the 19-year-old Master Robson, it was a perfect solution. And it would be a great story to tell while downing a few pints at the pub in the years to come. So, Brian and his friends got a large crate, packed up Brian's bag, gave him a bottle of water, an empty bottle for waste, a pillow, a flashlight, and a hammer so he could extract himself from the box should he need to. The friends nailed the crate shut, made sure to stamp it fragile and this side up, then delivered Brian to the post office. Unfortunately, the trip didn't go quite as planned. Brian's 36-hour cargo trip ended up lasting 5 days and didn't end with him being extracted from the box back on home soil in the UK. One thing he and his friends never really considered was that the cargo gets shipped in cargo holds of airplanes, and they don't pressurize those. So the oxygen levels routinely drop below levels necessary for humans to retain consciousness, which Brian lost several times during the trip. He then found himself upside down in the crate for about 24 hours because cargo handlers rarely pay attention to those giant letters that spell out "this side up." For 5 days, Brian couldn't take much more of this and managed to turn his flashlight on. A worker noticed and peered through the hole in the crate to find Brian sorta peering back out at him. As it turned out, Brian's crate had gotten lost in the mail and actually ended up in Los Angeles, California. Because the water had run out days earlier, Brian was dehydrated and exhausted, which looked to the dock worker as if he were actually dead. Within a few minutes, the place was crawling with CIA, FBI, and every other government alphabet agency you can think of. Soon, Brian was extracted and sent off to hospital to be treated for dehydration. And because it was the 60s, the United States government just got him back on his feet and sent him home. Brian was headed home to the UK in a first-class airline seat rather than the cargo hold he came in on. Brian Robson has recently written a book and is currently looking for the two friends that nailed him into the shipping crate, as he hadn't seen them in nearly 60 years. The last time he laid eyes on them was when they were putting the lid on the crate back in Australia. So there you go. Next time someone says, we'll just mail you there, it's a good for a laugh, but probably not a great idea at all. That's been another Weird Wednesday. Join us once again next week for Weird Wednesday here on rock104.ca. Until then, have a great week.